What is up, guys? This is QM from the Trinity of Lift, and today I'm actually going to bring to you guys another episode of Path to Perfection. I believe episode 9. Path to Perfection is the sort of weekly series where I select a deck, we take a look at my main deck, extra deck, and side deck choices, and we have a little discussion about the deck in the comment section below for a couple of weeks at a time. So, being that this is week 3 of Performage Shaddolls, this will be the last week that we will be covering this deck. Now, I will say for this week, there isn't too many changes to the actual Performage Shaddolls list. There is a couple noteworthy ones, but outside of that, it really is the same sort of deck, as basically the deck just runs so well by itself already that whenever you do make changes, it isn't really to the actual, I guess you could say, core parts of the deck itself. What I mean by that is like the performance parts and the Shaddolls parts of the deck, but it really is just more of just moving around the things like the trap cards or some of the spells and kind of like that kind of thing that we are changing per week, really. So again, this week isn't going to bring about a lot of changes, but there are, again, some notable ones that I will be mentioning when I get to them. So, without further ado, let's get right into the main deck as usual. So, we'll start with the Shaddolls. It's this, really, I don't want to say anything because it's the same lineup. It's the 3 Squamata, 2 Beasts, 2 Hedgehog, 2 Falco, 1 Dragon. Like, really, I'm not going to say anything because, well, it's the same lineup pretty much. It's the exact same lineup of Shaddolls that I do believe we've been running in every single Path to Perfection video thus far. So, of course, we really, if it's not broken, don't change it, I guess you could say. Then we have the 3 Mathematician because, of course, he's really good, so we have 3 of him. Then we have the Performage Engine, which is 2 copies of Trick Clown, 3 copies of Damage Juggler, and then the 2 copies of Hat Tricker. Now, I will actually mention something here really quick. If I did have the card, one of these Damage Jugglers would actually be a Denko Sekka. Now, for obviously I don't have the Denko on me right now, which is kind of sad. I will be getting that Denko very soon, but I would cut one of these damage jugglers for the simple fact that when you do run 3, there will be weird situations when you will actually draw into multiples of damage juggler, and I'm not going to say that that's awful, but the fact that you did draw into multiple damage juggler can actually really just contribute to pretty slow hands, just because of the fact that there is no real way to get them out of your hand immediately outside of maybe a live fusion. And even if you do have that live fusion, you have 2 of them in your hand. So again, just trying to get them out of your hand just as quickly as possible can be, again, sort of slow based on the tempo of this deck and how fast it can be. So when I do get the Denko, I will be cutting one of the damage jugglers for the Denko Sekka, because Denko is really strong against majority of rogue decks, as well as every deck in the format now, actually, outside of Nekroz, just Nekroz actually has back row, which is actually, again, it's not too bad to run Denko, as again, Denko might be a little bit dead against Nekroz, but again, just because Nekroz is the only deck that doesn't have back row in their game 1s and stuff, I felt that Denko can be a fairly decent main deck card now. So yeah, that will be all I'm going to say on the Performance Engine. Again, just to summarize, I will be cutting a damage juggler for a Denko. Moving on to the other final monsters we do run, we have the 1 copy of Thunder King, which I finally actually got in ulti, which is actually really nice because the ulti Thunder King is really beautiful. So yeah, we have the 1 Thunder King to have a very strong normal summon turn 1 against Nekroz and all those other search decks. We have the 1 copy of Glowbolt for Trishula plays and whatnot, and then of course we have the 1 BLS because it's too good. So that will be it for the monster lineup. Moving on to the spells, again, it's pretty much the same. We have 3 copies of Shaddolls Fusion. We have 3 copies of El Shaddolls Fusion. Again, this is the best ratio as of right now, just because fusions are good, of course. So we have this lineup for fusions. Moving on, we have actually 2 copies of Instant Fusion. I have bumped it up to 2 for the fact that I more or less realized, I guess you could say, that Nodin is a pretty darn good card. I know it's kind of dumb that I didn't realize it before, but after testing it a lot more and after testing multiple instant fusions, I found that, in my opinion, 2 is probably a lot better than 1, as you can see it a little bit more often. Now, I don't want to run 3 for the fact that, albeit we can recycle our Nodins to an extent with our Jar of Avarice, which you guys will eventually see, I felt that having 3 in the main deck is not that good, as some people might say, just because of the fact that, again, kind of like Damage Juggler, actually, if you do draw into multiple instant fusions, it's not that good, especially with instant fusion, because of the fact that you can actually only activate 1 instant fusion per turn. So because of that, if you do draw multiple instant fusions, you essentially have a dead card for that turn that you do draw multiples of instant fusions. fusion. So in order to alleviate that problem and to just never run into it, basically, I have decided to cut one instant fusion out and just have the two, which is just fine for me. Moving on, we have the generic spells, which is the one copy of Foolish Burial, the one copy of Mind Control, and the one copy of Raigeki to round off our spell lineup. So again, it's not too different outside of the second instant fusion. Moving on to the trap cards, we have the one copy of Shadow Core because we need to have the one copy for Anoya Tiles combos as well as just other things that we might need core for. We have the one copy of Bottomless Trap Hole because it's really good at removing. Same thing with Torrential Tribute, another good removal card. We have the one copy of Jar of Avarice to help us recycle our Elder Entity Nordens and our El Shaddolls Nephilims. So again, just having that recyclability is really nice. And then finally, I actually do mainboard 2 copies of Breakthrough Skill now. Now, I have opted to run this over Veiler in this finalized list for the simple fact that realistically in Necros, the biggest thing that's going to be the biggest pain in your side now is going to be Necros of Unicorn. And obviously, albeit Effect Veiler is very strong by itself as a hand trap, it cannot really stop Necros of Unicorn because of the fact that it can only turn Unicorn off on your opponent's turn. You cannot really turn off Unicorn on your turn, and that can actually really just make it problematic for you because your fusion plays end up becoming neg 1s, which is really it's bad if it's a neg 1. So because of that, I did actually want to just put Breakthrough Skill in over the Effect Veilers because first of all, Effect Veiler is also dead against Clyfort when compared to Breakthrough Skill, where Breakthrough is not as dead. And again, just for that more versatility against Necros of Unicorn, I have opted to actually put the 2 copies of Breakthrough Skill over the Effect Veiler. So that will round off our main deck with those traps. Moving on to the extra deck, it really is not that much change outside of maybe 2 copies of Nodin. So again, we'll just go through it pretty fast. We have the 3 copies of El Shaddolls Nephilims because she's too good. We have the 1 copy of El Shaddolls Winda because we hate that Burning Abyss matchup. We have the 1 copy of El Shaddolls Shekinaga because she's a pretty big butt. We have the 1 copy of El Shaddolls Anoya Tiles for that Necros matchup. And then, of course, we have the 2 copies of Elder Entity Norden to support our instant fusions. Then, moving on, we have the 1 copy of Trishula, the 1 copy of Net Beast to round off our synchros. Then for our XZs, we have the 1 copy of Felgrind, which I also picked up in Ulti, which is really pretty too. We have the 1 copy of Castel, the 1 copy of E-Knight, the 1 Dweller, the 1 Trapeze Magician, and the 1 Yusei token that I like to show off with all of my extra decks. So that will be it for our extra deck for this finalized version of Performage Shaddolls. Moving on to the side, we have 3 copies of Retaliating Sea, and then we have the 1 copy of Maxi to accompany it. Now, I have actually decided to cut 1 Maxi because of the fact that you really don't need multiple Maxis accompanying the Retaliating Sea, as realistically, you just want to run the 3 Retaliating Seas in the side just so you can see it as fast as you possibly can, as when you basically resolve 1 Retaliating Sea, it can be just a blowout against decks that this card really does affect, i.e. Infernoids and the Mirror Match and all that kind of stuff. And Maxi is essentially there just to act as our search target once our first copy of Retaliating Sea goes to the grave. So again, I felt that 2 Maxi wasn't that necessary because whenever you side these cards in, you actually just want to see this card instead of this card because Retaliating Sea is just such a broken blowout card in my opinion that again, we just want to see this card as soon as we possibly can against the matchups that we decided in against. So that is again why I decided to cut the 1 Maxi for other cards in this side deck. Moving on, we have the 2 copies of Effect Veiler, which is, I have them in the side deck because, again, I want to avoid that dead card as much as I possibly can, as, again, like I said, the 2 Veilers are pretty dead against Clyfort. So, because of that, I decided to just put them in the side and side them in whenever I do need that extra effect negation against things like maybe Necros again, Yosenju, because that is actually fairly relevant at my locals, and other very problematic effect-based decks. So, of course, we have the 2 Veiler on the side. Then we actually have the 3 copies of MST. Now, I actually have MST back in here because of the fact that I actually found room for MST again. And I've been finding myself running into more back row heavy decks, i.e. Cosmo as of late. So because of that, I will be using this alongside my Faerie Wins against certain other decks, just to have a lot of back row removal in my side deck, because again, the back row decks, again, like I said, is getting more and more prevalent, which is again why I would like to have had the 1 Denko in my main deck if I had the Denko on me. And again, that is why we do have the 3 MSCs in the side again, because back row decks are making, in my opinion, a pretty decent comeback. Moving on to the traps, we have 3 copies of Mind Crush now. I have opted to put Mind Crush in here again because I found that Mind Crush within testing, I have given this card a lot of bad rep over the past couple months because of, I guess you could say, I just really didn't like the hype that followed this Mind Crush card just because of Necros and stuff. But within testing, I actually did decide to succumb to, I guess you could say, the quote-unquote hype because of the fact that in things like against Soteller Knights and Clayfort to an extent, as well as again prevalently Necros, Mind Crush does extremely well to just out our opponent's plays. So because of that, I did decide to actually just put the 3 Mind Crush in my side deck this time around. And again, within testing, I actually have very much liked Mind Crush every time I have seen it whenever I did decide it in. So we do have the 3 Mind Crush. Then we have the 1 copy of Mirror Force for things like Clayfort and again Yo Senjus, as well as other decks where we need just big removal against i.e. heroes and all that kind of stuff, just because whenever they do have problematic monsters on board, we want to have the out to it immediately as much as we can. So we do have the 1 copy of Mirror Force on our side, and then finally we have 2 more copies of Faerie Win again, just for general back row floodgate removal, as well as to have a very strong blowout removal card against Clayfort. So that will round off our 15 card side deck. So again, I hope you guys all did very much enjoy this, I guess you could say 3rd mini-series of Path to Perfection, because this is the 3rd deck that we have covered. Again, I hope you all did very much enjoy these 3 weeks that we have been covering this deck. I am actually very happy to mention that I did actually turn out this episode on time. Exactly 1 week from today, the other Path to Perfection episode was uploaded. So again, I'm very happy to actually have this episode up on time. So again, I hope you guys all did enjoy. I very much will be looking into another deck to be featuring on this channel's series, this Path to Perfection. I do not have a, I guess you could say, a hard, solid date for when I should be having that next mini-series out. But again, I will be trying to figure out another deck that I will be trying to feature. And I promise you that it will not be a sort of meta deck. It will definitely be a rogue deck. So again, look forward to that in the coming, hopefully weeks, I guess you could say. So again, hope you all did very much enjoy. And as always, this is QREM from the Trinity of Lift. And I'll see all of you guys later. Peace out.